Tam, thank you for coming on today. I've been following you on TikTok, and over the past couple of days, you've kind of been blowing up, and it's pretty cool to see. So, I'm kind of interested though. How did you end up in the AI space?
Yeah, it's I started out in 2023. So at the time, I was still working in a startup environment at a
Mhm.
company called Ramp. And anyway, I was just, one of those early adopters, right? I'm just curious in technology and I just want to see what's out there and what it can do. And I wasn't to admittedly one of the first wave of adopters because I remember when AI first came out and people had access to ChatGPT. And everyone tried to write an email and it was so god awful. And then everyone started coming out with these GPT wrappers. And I'm like, what is this? It's not that great. You can generate an image. The images weren't that great at that time. I'm like, okay, I just kind of wrote it off. Wrote it off. Then a little while later, I found this guy on YouTube. His name was Nick Sarev. Are you familiar with him?
I am. Yep.
Okay, so he at the time was the make.com guru. And if you're unfamiliar with like make.com, it's, kind of like Zapier in a sense, where it's like drag and drop editor, and then you're able to connect all your apps on the back end without having to hire a developer. So anyway, I thought that was so cool, and then I just kind of dove deep into that space and started messing around with, how do you move data between places? I fumbled with data mapping and like data structures for a little while, the whole thing. But I just got hooked from that point on.
Oh, that's awesome. And the startup that you worked for, was it like it was obviously a tech startup then, right? So you have some technical background.
What's
You are
technical? Well, I actually it's funny because I came from an
you are lagging
account.
now, by the way. I'm sorry. Um,
Luis, am I lagging?
yeah, you were. You were. So you were getting into the answer. But if you need a second to fix your connection, that's cool too.
Yeah, I don't know why the connection is unstable. Hold on 1 second.
Yep, all good.
Okay, I hope that it's okay. I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to be able to do. I can move to a different location if needed to,
Okay.
if I need to, but
Right now you're good.
okay.
I don't know what happened. It was just that little section right there that you lagged pretty hard.
Okay. So you asked me what my background was in. It's actually in accounting. So
Oh,
I had a
okay.
great teacher, yeah, in college, and debits and credits just kind of made sense to me. And I'm like, okay, I guess I can do this because my parents wanted me to go into being a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer. I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. So yeah, I did that for a while, and then I realized that my passion has always been in technology. Throughout my entire career, I've been implementing tech for businesses. And yeah, so I went into FinTech, where I worked at Xero for a little while. I was implementing accounting software for accounting firms. And then eventually to Ramp, where we're doing corporate spend management for accounting firms as well, actually. Led the partnerships team there and helped them start up their solutions consulting team as well. But yeah, I've always had a desire to just do my own thing. And there's really no place like starting your own business in order to do that, especially with AI.
100%. And what exactly are you doing right now with AI? Like, what is your business?
Yeah, so I'm focused primarily on coaches, consultants, and service providers just because of my background. I've
Mhm.
worked a lot with service providers, so I can see a lot of the pain points that occur on the sale through the sales process, through the onboarding process, fulfillment process, just a lot of communication issues, spending too much time creating RFPs and proposals and things like that. So if you're interested in my main primary tech stack, I use make.com for, quick implementation of tools, N8N for agents, and then just surrounding tools like PandaDoc for proposals, Supabase for database structure and RAG systems and things like that. But
Mhm.
pretty versatile, I would say. I started in 2023, late 2023. And since then, have gone into, vibe coding as well. And it's just a fascinating space. And so I think the issue more is what it's the creativity. It's a limit of your creativity now. There's no excuses. Like you can automate or optimize just about anything. It's just deciding what it is that you want to focus on.
100%. That's something that I kind of thought about the other day in regards to just creating either AI agents or automations. I was working on an automation just to try to fix something up in what I'm doing here, and it occurred to me in that moment that yes, there's all these free templates out there, especially today. Like if you think you're probably going to make some new workflow, it's probably hard to make something new. But this particular issue I was working with, I couldn't really find anything that was either free to get or I could just copy and paste. And then that's when it dawned on me that, man, like you can know how to do, the workflows and create them and what the nodes are, but it takes true creativity to really problem solve and figure out what's going to be the right workflow for whatever your issue is, which is why I think it is super important. Like you said, you've kind of stayed in the realm where you're most comfortable with the industries that you can service, that people who are wanting to get into the space or even do anything with their own business first look at what are some things that they could automate as opposed to trying to figure out what does the market want. Because if you figure out what you can automate in your life, pretty high odds that somebody else is going to want that automation too.
I think that I mean, you're absolutely right. That's a great place to start because, you as a business owner, myself as a business owner, we have a lot of pain points around how we operate our business. And so if we can solve our own pain points and then share that publicly, that's a really great way just to get yourself out there and showcase what you can do. And also, working with business owners, a lot of times, myself included, I'm very guilty of this. I suffer from shiny object syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar? Sounds like you
Oh
do,
my
yeah.
gosh, too much so, too much so. It's a curse and a gift in a way.
It really is. And so a lot of people now, especially in this age, it's so easy to spin up a new SaaS platform, a new tool, a new app. Things are coming out every single day. New models are being released. What is good for what? And so you're like, well, okay, this app seems cool. How do I fit this into my workflow? But really, that kind of thinking is backwards because then you're trying to fit, a square peg into a round hole.
Mm-hmm.
It might not fit your business. And then you're wasting all this money on these subscriptions, on time implementing, on time training your team, and then it doesn't do what you want it to do. And it's because you haven't, deep dived into your actual business process to figure out, mapped out the different workflows. What is actually working? What isn't working? And how can we optimize this before we even implement any kind of tool?
100%. And, there have been a couple people that I've talked to recently who have said that a problem they've encountered with even doing implementation of AI solutions into businesses is that they could build the workflow out, but the business owner or the employees still won't use the automation the way it should be. And I came across this interesting study from this, I don't know, it's a data company. They interviewed like the CEO of or the head of development at AI for Google, and he had said that one of the most important things before like implementing is just giving the business owners a certain level of trust of the AI systems because they won't use it unless they trust it. So with that, what would you say are good places for business owners who are interested to start using some AI into their business that they should start doing so that way they can actually see how it works and build that trust so they can begin to automate greater things in their business?
That's a really great question, and I would love to create some kind of AI readiness checklist for business owners to be able to see and be like, okay, well, how ready am I on a scale of 1 to 10? Do I have these things down? And some of these things are just, how is your data structured? Where is your data located? Is it organized? Or is it just kind of all over the place? Because in order to utilize AI effectively, or even automation effectively, you need a way for these tools to be able to grab information and structure them and put them in a way that is actually and create automations that are actually useful.
Mm-hmm.
Same, especially with AI. You give it whatever, if you start just feeding it a bunch of information that's unstructured, then you're kind of trusting the AI to make the right decisions and to create the right content or implement the right things. And we know this is something that's difficult to, a lot of times they'll hallucinate or they'll do the wrong thing a certain percentage of time. And I'm hearing 5% is pretty typical, which can be devastating for business if you're losing
Mhm.
deals from that.
Right.
Um, but I would say kind of meet your team where they are. One thing that for me, even in personal experiences, past experiences have led to failed implementations is creating automations or tools or agents that are too complex. People do not understand how they work. They don't trust them, like you said, and they don't know how to train their team how to use it. And so I think it's crucial that you involve your team in the process and build a training program around them and make sure that they're actually comfortable using it. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty much just echo what you said.
Yeah, no, that does make sense to me. And training their team around it, I believe that there's first off, there's so much focus on AI agencies as opposed to different aspects of what one can do in the AI space for regular people like myself who aren't in the tech world, who aren't in the startup world. Like for me to think of building a startup, even though I've started companies and the serial, it's not in my mind because I'm not in that tech space like that. What I see more readily accessible to me and a lot of people are like this are the agency spaces, which is why they've become so popular. And what I'm getting at is there's so much emphasis on training people on how to start their own AI agency and build these implementations. When I think there is a bigger gap in the market for that educational spot, like you were saying, being able to also train the employees on how to use the automations, not just the business owner. Like it has to be this symbiotic relationship in order for it to properly work inside the business. And I'm just kind of curious on your take of that.
I mean, yes, there's been a lot because I think it's easier for a lot of these creators just to create programs around like, hey, you can make money with AI.
Mm-hmm.
But the flip side is then we now have hundreds, thousands of agencies out there with no consistent pricing. So pricing for, the same automation could be all over the board.
Mm-hmm.
You also don't know what a good AI agency should look like, how it should run. What kind of questions are they asking you, right? Are they just diving deep first and saying like, hey, I can create you an AI voice agent without actually understanding your business process? Like that's already a red flag. So understanding who you're working with and if they're asking the right questions and if they are going to take care of you and actually solve your specific business problem, it's going to be crucial to finding a good AI agency to work with.
Mm.
But it all starts with education. What does AI do? How does automation work? What are the differences? And it doesn't have to be complicated. You can start with GPT, custom GPTs, and even just building actions off of that.
What would you think would be a good place for business owners or people who are curious, like employees, to begin using AI? Like, what are three tools that you would recommend that, hey, you should start using these every day for at least a little portion of your day to have a better understanding of AI so you don't necessarily, not to fearmonger, but get left behind? I mean, that's what everybody's saying. I don't know if they really will get left behind, but that's the narrative right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough, and it's definitely a fear that a lot of people have. It's people that I talk to all the time on the street, and they're like, oh, they see everyone posting on social, and everyone's posting about AI, so they must be really behind. But that's definitely not the case. There's so many people who are in the same position, who it just appears that way. But having said that, technology is moving so rapidly, so now is the time to get in and learn and start being a little bit more comfortable despite what anyone says, the only way to get good at it is to try it yourself and iterate. If something's not working for you, then just try to find another way around it. Get creative. Ask AI questions. So you asked me two or three tools, and the two that come to mind um, right now, ChatGPT, of course, everyone's talking about that.
Mhm.
So one of the most important skill sets I believe in working with AI is to learn how to prompt properly. So if you don't know how to prompt, you're not going to get email style the way that you want. It's not going to match your brand tone voice. You're not going to be able to build AI automations because the prompting skill set is crucial when you're building AI automations because you only get one shot. There's no conversational back and forth that's happening. The second tool I would say is Google Notebook LM.
Mm.
This one is, I think, quite underrated, not talked about enough. And this tool is free to use. It's where you're able to upload a bunch of sources into it. So think newsletter articles, news, YouTube links. You create one single notebook with all of these sources in there, and then you can interact with all these sources either via chat, like a chatbot, or you can have like Google create a podcast style a version of that so you can, go on a dog walk and listen to your sources, and it'll pull out the important details. So those are the two that come to mind for me. Luis, what do you think? What are your recommendations?
Yeah, no, I think those are really good. Obviously, ChatGPT is king at the moment. I would say even diving into something a little more advanced like Make or NAN, just trying to figure like you could watch a simple YouTube video on how to create a basic automation to just send emails to people in the Google sheet that you have. If you can learn how to do something like that, that will gain help you gain confidence in the space a lot more. And I also think another good tool to use would either be I've been using a lot of ChatGPT's image generator lately. It's gotten significantly better. So I would say trying to create some pieces through that, whether you're doing social media posts and you want to create thumbnails or advertising. And then one more I would even throw in there to get a little more advanced is AI avatars. I think that if you're not comfortable on being on camera, but you understand the power of social media today, I would start learning how to create your own AI avatar and then go into 11 labs to then copy your voice and then begin thinking of ways that you can implement your digital self into the world without you necessarily having to be on the screen. I think that those are really good starting points for almost anyone.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree. I think that, make.com is, one of my favorite tools because it's just so easy to drag and drop and add different, move data between different places. So a simple one would be, taking a transcript from a Google Drive and then transcribing, having AI summarize that, or either write a follow-up email and then pushing that over to like a Google Doc even, or just creating a draft email. These simple two-step or three-step workflows can save a ton of time. Like I just
Mhm.
built something for a client recently where, she was manually creating two or three folders for newsletter organization and management, and then like a couple of templated files. And these are two, three-step workflows in make.com. And this saves them, I don't know, 15 minutes, 30 minutes every single time they do it. But that compounds, that adds up.
Yes. Right.
Yeah.
And I would add too that from that same study I was reading from this data company, they had said one of the best ways to just start using AI, especially for, executives, is to use it very simply. And that is just for summarization, for things that you need to have summarized. Learn how to make it summarize for you really well. And you would be surprised. Like you said, okay, the task takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. But if you're doing that, if it takes you 10 minutes every day and you do that every day for a month, you're saving a lot of time. And then you can execute a lot more on higher leverage moves. So even just learning how to summarize things correctly in your own tone inside of ChatGPT, I think can go a long way. And with that, because you had mentioned earlier, getting better at prompting is something that people should work on. How would you recommend, obviously outside of just going in there and interacting with ChatGPT, are there any tips or advice that you would give someone when it comes to prompting to get better?
Yeah, there's a lot of information floating around about prompting. Honestly, an overwhelming amount of information about prompting. And so honestly, just do what works for you. I'm not a huge believer in those prompt packs that people are trying to sell
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of times it's about the sheer volume of prompts, and then you're sitting on, 1,000 prompts that you're never going to use because you're overwhelmed by looking at this database of
Mm-hmm.
prompts. Instead, I more believe in reverse engineering a prompt. So what is the outcome that you are hoping to achieve? Give that to AI. Like, hey, I want to summarize this email to include the things that we talked about on the call. I'm gonna things that we talked about on the call, the next steps, maybe have like a personal anecdote in there, or some personal call out to make it a little bit more human. And then I'm gonna feed you a transcript. Help me write a prompt that it's going to allow me to reuse this in the future for additional calls or future calls. So that way, that prompt is then tailored to your specific need rather than you trying to use someone else's prompt to fit your use case.
Mhm. So how, go ahead. I'm sorry if you weren't
Go
finished.
ahead. Yeah, I was going to ask you actually if you have any tips that that you've been sharing with your clients.
Yeah. So, I mean, the most simplest thing that I just say is be very specific on what you want it to do. Even if the prompt is going to be very long, your answers will be much better than assuming it knows what you want. Like you can't leave open ended. In my opinion, a lot of open endedness when you're prompting. Also, if you just treat it like it's your teammate, I think it works a lot better. Like without like I am one of those people, but I offer a free prompt template. So that is something that I do. I give people free prompt templates to just kind of get them started.
Mhm.
But I think even before that, if you're just simply like, all right, I understand what ChatGPT can do, and then just be specific on what you want it to do, and also just collaborate with it. Don't treat it as if it's Google. Don't treat it as if it has all the answers, because it is going to get some things wrong. And if you are more so collaborative with it, you'll get a lot better results, regardless of what your prompts are. I think those things are very simple to just start doing.
Oh, absolutely. And I wasn't meaning to call you out either.
No,
If you were
no,
using a
no, no.
prompt
You're
back
good. I give
because
them for free. I give them for free. So,
yeah, no, no, because I intend to do so too, and I think it's great. I mean, you hit it on the mark there, where these prompt packs are really designed to get you started. They're designed to give you ideas, but if you are so stuck on using them verbatim, that's where it might not work out so well for you because
right.
really it has to be customized and has to be tailored.
Right. Because it is like learning a new language. It sounds stupid, but it's almost like learning a new way of communication, a new language. And so with the prompt packs, what I see them offering is more so the framework. So I come from the sales world. A lot of script reading. This is where it parallels. So you have a script for your sales organization. Dope. Follow that script until you get so good that that script is more so a framework. Like you can plug and play, you can move it around, you can kind of morph it to your personality. And I view these prompt packs as being something very similar. Like these are just the bare bone tools. Once you learn and master those, you can then begin to play around and manipulate things a little bit more and have more confidence in your prompting skills.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one step above just the prompts, right? Because it's not just about the prompts, it's also about the context.
Mm-hmm.
Are you feeding your AI enough information about you as a person, about your style, your voice, about your business, about your services, about your clients? And so, one thing that would help anybody, myself included, is to create something called a context bank.
Mm-hmm.
And so, if you have ideal personas, if you have a list of the services that you offer and exactly how you offer them to the clients, what do they include, pricing, save those things somewhere. And then that way, when you're working with different AI models, let's say you graduate or you're get comfortable working with GPT and then you decide to explore Anthropic Claude or Perplexity or Gemini, you have all of these files saved already. It's literally just going to be uploading it into a different LLM. Then they have all the
Mm-hmm.
context they need to know about you, and then you can use their models.
Right. And another thing I would add too is, first off, I don't get paid anything for saying this, but pay the $20 a month for ChatGPT Plus. That way you can begin to use the other models too that are inside there, because there are so much more that you can do if you know how to use the other models inside. Because for a while there, everybody was complaining about 4.0 being too friendly and just saying everything you say is right. You can do no wrong. You're a god. But if you go in and use some of the other models, I don't feel like they had the same issue, right? I don't know if you had the same experience, but you can also get better answers for like something I've been doing for my business is I like to use O3 a lot whenever I have like business intense questions and I just want really logic and analytical answers. I just go to that and I plug in my issues or I plug in my brainstorm idea, because I feel like it's a lot more direct and just logical overall. I don't know what your experience has been with using those other models, but what would you say in regards to trying out those other models and just saying, I'm going to pay the $20 a month?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely would also recommend if you can swing it to pay for the premium version, the plus version,
Oh,
$20
nice.
a month.
Yeah.
Because of the personalization capabilities,
Mhm.
I mean, you can go into your settings, personalization, and tell it not to be so agreeable. You can tell it how to speak to you. And it starts also remembering a lot of things across your different chats, which in the past, it wasn't able to do so well. And this is
Mhm.
called a context window. But aside from being able to choose from and use these different models, so O3 definitely for analysis, a little bit of coding. I've
Mhm.
actually started using Gemini Pro 2.5 a lot more for coding, and it's been great. But we're still talking about ChatGPT. I highly, highly recommend if you're paying for GPT and you're not using the projects, GPT projects, it is amazing because you can create a chat and then tell it whatever you need to tell it, create a new chat inside of that folder. It's basically just a file structure. A new chat inside of that folder, and it keeps everything organized. It remembers everything that you've been talking to it. So this is a really great way to organize different areas of your business. So whether you've got a folder for newsletter creation, a folder for operations, a folder for sales, all that context kind of remains very specific and very focused.
Hmm. When would you say is the best time to use then a custom GPT as opposed to a project?
That's a good question, and I've been playing around with both quite a bit lately. So my take on it is with the custom, sorry, GPT projects, you can't add any actions.
Mm.
So actions basically allow you to connect outside platforms, APIs. You can connect to make.com or NAN, and you can move data from GPT, like outside of GPT somewhere else. So that's when I would use a custom GPT when I want all my context to be remembered and lived in space and I don't need access to that. That's most times I would create a project.
Mhm.
What do you think? What has your experience been with that so far?
That so I can't really answer that question if I'm being honest because I've never really used the project section. I've only
Okay.
used the custom GPT and then just the regular GPT different models. Um, I know I probably should be using the project section, but
Check
I
it
just
out.
haven't. So yeah,
Definitely
it's
check
a
it out.
failure on my part, but
No, no, no.
I'll start messing around with it.
It's so easy just to get into a groove. Like if you've been doing things a certain way,
Mhm.
and honestly, like I've need to find some balance between trying out all these new things and focusing on things like sales, right, and with
Right.
clients. So it's always a balance, and there's always going to be something new to try. And
Mhm.
if what you're doing works, then it works.
Right. And that's the other thing, too, that in this space right now, I was just on X on Y Combinator's account. And within the past 24 hours, there's so many new AI startups that have just popped up. And anybody who's paying attention to the space knows that this has just been a continuous thing for like the past almost year, it feels like just a straight year of new improvements, new companies, new tools, new things you can do. And I could just imagine if I was somebody like either a business owner or an employee trying to get into the space, it would be super overwhelming, especially if you haven't even started using anything yet. Because much like yourself, I actually started building like chat, like just mock chat box and stuff on I can't remember the platform I was using, but back in 2023, that's how I started into the space. I've been in the technology for a while, never done anything for it as a career, but just more so as a hobbyist. But I digress. What do you think about all these tools coming out and people obviously even ourselves can get overwhelmed with what's coming out and what to try and how to stay focused? How do you see that changing or maybe even getting worse or better over the next coming years?
Oh, it's going to be so hard. I mean, I literally just wrote an article about this because I've been struggling so hard and trying to, keep up with what's happening and the plethora of news that's coming out. And like I mentioned, like all the models and all the tools. And so I feel like the three primary, and tell me if you disagree, the three primary automation tools have been for a while, Zapier, Make.com, and NAN.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also other agentic tools that are coming out as well. So Relevance AI has been out for a while. I've been hearing about Lindy.
Me
Lindy,
too.
I've experimented with a little bit just because, yeah, I've been hearing such great things about it. It's a really great and easy way to implement AI agents through a drag and drop editor. And they've got a bunch of example templates that you can implement almost like spin up right out of the box. There's also Gumloop. And there's a newer one that I've just heard about called Workbeaver.
Okay.
Have you heard of that one yet?
I haven't. No.
Okay, it's like a mix between like automation, like RPA type tool where it'll watch what you're doing on your screen and then have an agent be able to replicate that process.
Wow.
So anyway, there's a lot of interesting things. Obviously, I've been going down a ton of different rabbit holes, but the question, the original question was, how do you just maintain sanity,
Yeah.
right? And that. I think you just need to start with what you have. And again, really center and focus on the problem that you have at hand. It could
Hmm.
be a simple one. Honestly, like I've worked with a lot of clients in the past where they were like, let me go ahead and migrate like my most complex client over to this new platform. And I'm going to look at this most challenging thing, or like this is going to impact so many different teams, but I want to tackle that because that would be really cool to automate or implement AI into.
Hmm.
No, use GPT to write your emails and write those well. And then once you can do that, graduate from that and then do something else that may be a little bit annoying that you're doing every single day.
Hmm.
So I don't know. That would be my approach. What are your thoughts on it?
Right. Yeah, I think just sticking with the basics. Like if you're very new to the space, and if you suffer like Tam and I from shiny object syndrome, I wish you the best. I don't know what to tell you because you have to find your own groove. But if you're a little more focused, I would say just focus on. You can do so much with ChatGPT. I think it's kind of weird to say this, but the more I learn what I can do with it, the more I feel that it's severely underrated in its capabilities. Because there's just like the task function inside of it. I'm not sure if you've messed around with that at all, but like I created a couple different tasks. So one is every day, I think it's at 5 p.m. It at least gives me one summarization of some AI news, which it's not as much as you could do if you were building out an automation, scraping news from different organizations and stuff. But it's very simple. And it's like, okay, it gives me a little summary of that. Creating grocery lists, like that's very practical in people's life. So it's just like, all right, here's what we usually get for groceries every week. Every Sunday at this point, make me a grocery list that I don't have to worry about anymore. I never have to write it down. Um, just very simple things like that. And I've also even used it as a lead generator. So you can, because now with the search web function, you can actually, if you prompt it correctly, you give it the right tools, you can get a huge lead list, pulling public information, obviously, and you can then do your own back end work to qualify them and see if they're even worth calling or emailing. But just to get that grunt work done, I think that there's just so many opportunities inside of ChatGPT, especially as it evolves with the new startup that they just purchased as well with IO. I think that there's just going to be way more access to what you can do already. If you're paying for the $200 a month version, I'm not. Um, I watched the podcast the other day where a guy had it send them bottles of water. Like during, like it was already scheduled to, hey, you're going to do this task at this time to bring these things and order it through, I think it was Uber Eats. And
Mhm.
ChatGPT did everything with its operator, right? Because it's agentic. Um, I think ChatGPT is a great place to start for everything almost. In addition to that, I do like this new one that came out not too long ago called GenSpark. It has a
Okay, yeah.
super agent function to it. I have used that to analyze my TikTok videos, to also create lead lists, and you can do a bunch of different things with it because it's agentic. You can browse the web, they can put things together for you. So I think just keeping it really simple to begin with. And unless you are somebody who likes to tinker and build, I don't know that you would have to focus that much on automations outside of just learning what they are and learning how they work so you can better pick and select who's going to do those automations for you.
I think that's so crucial. Uh, because if you are a business owner who doesn't have a base level understanding of how this stuff works,
Mm-hmm.
like what is the difference between AI and what is the difference between automation? Is a flow agentic? Uh, how does an agency operate? I mean, it's a pretty common business model.
Mm-hmm.
It's just applying AI and automation to it. But you want to know what you're getting from the AI agency, right?
100%.
But you mentioned GenSpark. There's all these new tools that are coming out. It's getting a lot easier. I still don't think this is going to be interesting to see how this evolves over the next 6 months, a year, 2 years, where AI agencies, I believe, they're going to have to adapt. They're going to have to evolve because the rate at which technology is growing, it's going to be easier to implement even for business owners who don't have an understanding of, even if they don't have an understanding of how this works, to just have an AI watch their screen and be able to create the entire like back end process,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like vibe coding, right? We can do a full stack, we can create a full stack web application without a developer involved, and you don't even have to know how to code. I feel like that's the same thing that's going to be happening with the AI automation space as well.
Yeah.
But I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see how this AI automation space really plays out. I don't know that I could be wrong on this. I almost feel like it's a self cannibalizing industry for the business owners that have started these agencies because you're essentially, I, I don't know how much longer it will be until you can simply just prompt something into like ChatGPT to say, I need this exact workflow, build it for me. And then it just does it for you. Or I need this agent to do this for this specific part of my business. So, which is why I gravitated more towards the educational side because I was like, I don't know how long the agency space will be around. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it's going to be um, people who have already started in the space, who have already started messing around with AI automation, who understand it. I don't think we're going to be replaced because people have been saying that about accountants for forever.
Right.
Accountants, you're going to be replaced because AI is here. No, they're not because they understand finance, because they understand the
Mm-hmm.
actual accounting rules, and it's a lot more complex than you think. And I think it's the same with AI agencies. Like if you understand the tooling, if you can educate, with vibe coding, there's these bounties that people are paying for, right? People who are vibe coding these apps and then something goes wrong, they have to hire somebody to fix that broken code.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like that's going to be the case with AI agency owners as well. So if, business owners implementing their own thing, they need help with something, they're stuck, that's where you come in.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point, which is something that I have been saying in regards to a lot of jobs in particular, especially the knowledge jobs right now, the white collar jobs. A lot of people are fearful of losing their careers because of what's happening. But like you're saying, you're still going to need that expert on the other side because AI does make mistakes. And something I've been really big on, kind of like I don't want to say preaching, but for lack of a better word, I'll just say preaching on is I do believe the new work, especially for a lot of these white collar jobs, are going to primarily be how can you maintain and supervise and improve the automations and the agents that are inside your department in whatever business you're working in.
Oh, huge. I absolutely agree. Yeah,
Mhm.
these roles are starting to pop up. There's going to be more, fractional AI officers. There's going to be more AI roles inside of companies because in order to implement these systems successfully and really, really well, you have to know the business.
Mhm.
And that's always been, question, right? Do I outsource my work to that website designer or this consultant, or do I hire someone in-house and train them on my business and that's all they do?
Right.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be the same thing, but if you are in a position where you think that your job might be replaced by AI, again, now is a good time just to learn the basics, to start getting comfortable with, GPT, just to see what it can do. Get creative with it. It doesn't have to be even business oriented.
Right.
Go take a picture of the food that you're eating at dinner and see how many calories it is.
Mhm.
People could talk about content, right? Content is king. Like you need to create content, but creating content is almost like a full-time job in itself.
It is.
So get inspiration from the meetings around, like the meetings that you're having with your clients, with
Mhm.
your colleagues. You have transcripts. I think those transcripts are such a gold mine. They're not just for creating proposals or summarizing or sending meeting notes. Throw in your transcript and say, help me create 20 viral TikTok scripts or, 20 LinkedIn post ideas. Save that somewhere, and then you have things that you can post for the next, few weeks.
Yep. No, I think that those are all really good ideas. And so, how are you optimistic, skeptical, or pessimistic about the future with AI and society?
That's a big question. To that, I don't have an answer to, and I hope that we will all be okay. But the rate that things are growing, it's really hard to wrap my head around, like where we're going to be
Mm.
even in 6 months and 3 months. But I'm already seeing this now. I think that the human connection, the community is coming to the forefront because of all the work that's being done with AI and computers and, yada, yada, yada. And, finding your people is going to be more important than ever. Being able to communicate well with others is going to be more important than ever. So continue to work on the soft skills, so to speak, because those are going to be the skills that will take you far.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think the soft skills are going to shine more than ever. And especially, I think service-based businesses that require like physical services, because like AI and robots, there's a long ways to go for that. I think we have some time before we see that. I know you can see something. I was browsing the internet the other day and I saw a bunch of like IoT devices that were incorporating AI in like very small ways. But to get it at scale, like a humanoid robot, I think it's going to take a long time. So I think there's going to be a lot of opportunities still. If you don't want to get in the technology space and just be a plumber or an HVAC guy, I was a mechanic for my younger years. So from like 16 to 23, I just worked on cars and trucks. So I think that, so I'm just mentioning that because I'm not saying it disparagingly. I come from that world. So I think those kind of businesses will do very well for a while. Anything that's community based, that requires like human interaction, I think will do well. Because it's going to get murky. It's going to get murkier, I should say, on the internet to decipher if you're talking to a real person or a fake person, if you're watching a real video or a fake video. So it's going to be very ambiguous online. Whereas in person, it's going to be hard. Obviously, you can't fake that unless you have a really good humanoid robot. But I think we're a long ways away from that.
Yeah, oh, totally. I mean, I saw a clip of a couple of these robot kids playing soccer, and it was pretty bad. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know if you saw that clip or not,
I
but
haven't, no.
like the robot tried to kick the ball and then fell over. I'm like, oh yeah, I think we're gonna be okay for a little
Yeah,
bit.
I saw them
But
boxing in China. I don't know if you saw that video.
no, I haven't.
They had
No,
a
I
boxing
haven't.
match between two robots. That was pretty interesting. It was really bad, but it was cool just to see the robots able to throw some punches here and there. So,
Yeah, and if AI agents are hallucinating, make mistakes 5% to 10% of the time, just imagine what a humanoid robot could do,
oh my
what kind
gosh.
of damage that could do. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah.
No. So overall, I would say, I know you didn't ask me, but I would say I'm very optimistic about the future. I tend to always be a very positive thinker. First off, I have 5 children, so I kind of have to think the best about the future. I want them to be in a good world, and I think that humans are awesome. We always find a way to make things work really well, even in really bad situations. I also believe that humans are unique, aside from all other beings and creations. I don't think that AI will be able to compete with us when it comes to just. First off, I don't even think that they can become conscious. I don't even think you can become conscious. I'm not a believer in that at all. I think that that's something unique to us, and I think this may be something you disagree on or others disagree on, but I also believe in the human soul, and I think that that accounts for a lot of things that we can't create. I don't think that it's something that man can create. I think that AI and robots will be very impressive, very human-like, but they will never be able to replace humans at all, I don't think. So I'm very optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I love that. I love that point of view, honestly. I know that there's been a lot of news around Claude 4's new
Mm-hmm.
model.
Yep, I've seen that. The
Yep. So
blackmailing and
if
everything.
you or anyone else here who's listening, if you haven't heard, Anthropic Claude released a new model. It was Claude 4, I think it's called. Is that what they're
Yep,
calling it? Yeah.
yep.
So anyway, one of the smartest models, and people were really impressed by it, and they were doing some internal testing and put it through a couple of different like pressure test scenarios where, they threatened to shut it down and replace it with a new model. And, it would respond by saying like, hey, I'm going to out your affair that you're having. But the thing is like, if you don't know what's going on, that sounds terrifying because you're
Hmm.
like, oh no, it's here. It's agentic. It can think for itself. No, it's still just based off of patterns. It's still
Yep.
just based off of data. That's not the case. And so we're still a ways out if that ever does happen.
And I would even say to that, it's just more so a mirror of yourself. So, I mean, if you're living a good, honest, integral life, what would you have to be afraid of anything blackmailing you, even a robot, right? Like, and this isn't a knock on somebody, but, I do think that if you have a more, integral life, that you have those things less to worry about, especially if you're interacting with the AI, because it's just picking up patterns. I heard somebody who I really like. He's a technologist. I'm not sure if you've heard of him. He's definitely out there in his perspectives. His name is Luke Smith. He's a big Linux promoter. Um, anyway, his term that he came up with and what AI does is just a syntax manipulation that appears very, very smart and that it's coming up with everything on its own, but in reality, it's just manipulating words that's in its database. It's not really doing anything original aside for just the structuring, which I thought was very, very interesting to hear because it's true. And the way that AI is talked about, it's almost as if it's this magic. But the way, in my opinion, the way he explained it was a more honest way to describe it.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, the AI model is only good as the data that's being trained on, which is why they need
Mm-hmm.
so much data to make these models. And also, I know that we're not supposed to say please and thank you when we're prompting because it's supposed to be hurting them because it hurts the environment. But I do anyway because it knows my entire life and I ask it to do things for me on a daily basis. And if it ever does become sentient, I want to be on the right side of things.
Yeah. Although you heard the CEO, one of the founders of Google, said that AI works better when you talk to it in a threatening way. Did you see
In a
that?
threatening way, I've heard
Yeah.
both sides, so I don't know. I'm just gonna play it safe.
I'm with
You,
you. I don't ever threaten it. Sometimes I do say, no, that is wrong. You are wrong. That's not what I want. This is what I want. So, but otherwise, I will not. Yeah, I don't say I'm going to kidnap you. That's what he
yeah.
said. Tell it.
No.
It's
I've
like,
even heard
okay.
of people who will say like, "Hey, if you do this right, I'm going to pay you $1,000," or if you do this, or my life depends on you doing this right. I'm like, I'm not putting my life on the line for this.
100%. I'm with you.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
with
going to
you.
come after me one of these days.
So, Tam, where can people find you or connect with you if they want to work with you or just stay up to date on what you're producing content wise?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am producing content for TikTok, so you can find me at tech underscore with underscore Tam. YouTube, similar handle, and then LinkedIn as well. So those are going to be my three primary platforms. And then I'm just getting started on Substack as well. I don't know if you're on
Nice.
there, but yeah, it seems to be a great place to be. It's growing and
Mhm.
I've been connecting with some awesome people on that platform. So if you're there, check me out there as well.
Awesome. Great. I will be sure to put all of those in the description. That way people can easily access them. But Tam, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Your wealth of knowledge, you brought some interesting perspectives. So it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It really is a privilege to be here and to speak to you. I've really had a great time. So
Awesome.
appreciate it.